Hey, fundraiser. I am super excited because I have big news for you. The big news, because why postpone joy, is that I wrote a book. I wrote a book, and my hope is it is going to help you be the strongest, best major gift solicitor in the history of the world. So every day, not joking, 4 to 5 times a day, I get the very same question from my coaching clients, from my major gift momentum clients. And they say to me, Mary, what is the exact verbiage you use to close a gift? Or they'll say, I'm meeting with Mr. Duncan this week and I need to ask him for 250,000. What's the exact verbiage I should say? Or, it's time for me to renew Mrs. Smith's gift. And, this is how I asked last year. I need a new way to ask her for a major gift this year. What is the verbiage I should use? So the book is called What to Say, 12 Major Gift Asks to Get a Yes. And let me tell you, fundraiser, these are my proven word for word scripts that have helped me raise hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I was getting this question every day, multiple times a day. What should I say? What should I say? What should I say? Which is why the book's called What to Say. But I kept answering this question over and over, and then I thought, if I really were to sit down and think about this, I sat on my front porch. It was like a beautiful fall day. I sat out there with a notebook and I thought back to all the many different solicitations that I can remember. And I thought, how did I ask this person? What did I say to this person? What objections did this person have? And after sitting out on my front porch for 3 hours, there are 12 ways that I ask for a gift. And so you can now have all 12 ways. But something kind of bigger came out of this. I had someone in my life. You're going to know why she is not in my life anymore momentarily. But I had someone in my life who once, fundraiser, hold on to your whatever. She used to call me a professional beggar. Ugh, cringe. Yeah. And by the way, if you know me, I love to bless and release. She has been blessed and released. But ever when she would call me that, she was not in the nonprofit field. She did not understand philanthropy. She didn't even understand that I was paid a really solid salary for, soliciting people. But she also thought that I just asked for money all day. She thought that I didn't, she didn't understand cultivation strategy. She didn't understand qualification, tactics, stewardship elements. And frankly, she never will. She'll never know the joy of philanthropy because she's kind of just this closed off person. But I tell you this because there's a lot of feelings when it comes to the ask. And for many years, I kind of listened to her and thought, am I a professional beggar? And then I was like, no, I'm absolutely not. I am a professional, and fundraising is very professional. And you know what? $560 billion was gifted in the United States alone in 2024. So that came from the report on giving, which if you haven't seen it, you should buy the copy because it's fantastic and it comes out every June. Okay, so I had a lot of thought put into how I ask because she sent me down this weird mental journey of am I a professional beggar? No, I'm not. But it made me pay a lot more attention to my ask. And because of her, in a way, I'm grateful for her. Let's call it naivete. I want to use a different word, but we're going to go with naivete. I realized a lot of different things, fundraiser. This is going to be a pep talk for a second, but we're not professional beggars. We have one of the best jobs in the world. We get to invite people into something bigger than themselves. We get to sit at tables where lives are changed, and you get to witness generosity in its purest, most altruistic form. So I wrote this book because asking is not a chore. It is not a burden, and it's not a necessary evil, and it's not professional begging. It is a joyful act. It is a privilege. It is a calling. And when you start to see it this way, just like I started to see it this way, it is one of the best parts of the job. So I wrote this book because it took me many years to recover from that statement, but it also helped me understand that I need courage and confidence when I ask for gifts. And it's time for me to share all my tips and tricks with you. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to ask for gifts. You get to ask for gifts, which is a completely different mentality. Okay, so switching gears. When I was a little baby fundraiser, I used to ask the same way all the time. I had my go-to script. And here it is. It's very simple. I would say, Tim, would you consider a gift of $50,000 to support the homeless dental clinic? So it was a question. I always asked, literally the ask was a question. Some fundraisers make it a statement. I like asking. And I did that all the time for like a decade. And then one day, and I don't know what inspired me to do this, but I just switched it up. I started thinking about, okay, instead of me being in this comfortable, ask, what would the person I'm asking, what would they like to hear? And so this took me 20 years. It's going to be very simple. And you're probably going to think, Mary, why did this take you 20 years? But it did take me 20 years to figure out, and really hundreds of solicitations. Some donors give from their head, right? They like stats. They want to know the ROI. They want to know what the exact impact of their gift is going to be. Some donors give from their heart. They want to feel something. They want the emotional connection, and they want to know that they made a difference in the world. And then other donors give from their gut. They get a good feeling about you. They get a good feeling about the organization. They might get a good feeling about the project you're soliciting. But I kind of started to figure out like, okay, well, some people give from their head, some people give from their heart, and some people give from their gut. And I started to ask based on that. So if I knew I was sitting across from, maybe an accountant who really, and I'd had multiple conversations with this accountant about ROI and, impact, then I would make an ask based on impact. Or if I was sitting across from somebody who, would tear up at different stories, I would put a story literally in my ask to help me get there. And those are for the donors that give from their heart. And then the donors that give from their gut, there are very specific things that you can talk to them about as well. Now, I cover all this in the book, of course, which you'll get. But that really revolutionized how I changed things. And I did that for many years with lots of success. But as I matured, as I kept asking, I kept going deeper. And now my ask is so tailored based on the person that's sitting across the table from me. So in this book, you would get my 12 solicitation scripts. And it's more like 100 because with each script, you get like 3 to 5 different verbiages. But here's an example. If I was sitting with somebody who just loved the institution, was a former donor and or former major donor, and I knew that she, gave from her heart, then I would say something like this: Margaret, your leadership gift 5 years ago made our community clinic expansion possible. And because of you, families no longer have to drive 30 minutes for their cancer treatments. They're closer to home. It's such a better experience. Thank you for that. We've now turned our sights to improving the lives of children in this community. Would you join us again with a $500,000 gift to launch our new pediatric unit? Okay, that ask, there's a little story in there. There's a thank you in there. You're showing some gratitude. You've told her the impact that she's made. And now because she made this impact and her pledges paid off, we're now moving to this pediatric unit. Okay, so that's one ask. But I know now that if I was sitting across from an attorney and that attorney loved to negotiate, I wouldn't say those words that I just said to Margaret. I would say, Margaret, what would it take to get you to 500,000 this year? And that's it. Because I know that she loves to negotiate and she's going to tell me exactly what it's going to take. So what I'm doing is I'm phrasing things so that they land with the audience. And so, yes, the head, heart, and the gut, but it's actually deeper than that. I mean, one thing is that some people are people who give from their head and their heart, or their gut and their heart. So you can't really pigeonhole people into if they're head, heart, and gut. I mean, you understand, you can kind of put them into a category. But these 12 scripts hit different. This is 25 years of trial and error, and just honing and honing and honing until I started unbeknownst to me, started setting myself up for a yes. And it was only when I started getting all of these questions. What should I say? What's the exact verbiage? And I mean, from fundraisers, this was the first time they'd ask, or we have momentum members who have been in the field 15 years and just need a fresh way to ask. So I was getting this question from super seasoned major gift officers and then new executive directors who just needed to understand. So I wrote this book. It's short and punchy, just like my podcasts are. It's only like 85 pages or something like that, but power packed. So just to kind of give you a rundown, I first go into the 5 elements of a strong ask. And I break these 5 things down so that you understand how to set yourself up for success within all 5 of these things. So first is the setup. There are very specific things you need to do before you ask for a gift. Of course, I cover all this. Then there's the ask, which is where all your scripts come in. Then there is the silence, right? You ask for a gift, and the next person to speak needs to be the donor. They need to react to what you're saying. The fourth thing is that donor response. And then the fifth is the fundraiser's response. We go pretty deep into all five of these things, but the responses are really important. I mean, when you ask for a gift, you can get an immediate yes, which we all dream about. You could get a conditional yes. You might get a counter offer. You might have somebody that says, I need time to think about this, or you might get a soft no or a hard no. And I go into all the different ways to respond to all those different response types. I know that you have a lot of verbiage yourself. You've been doing this, but sometimes it's just nice to see like what other fundraisers are doing. Second most popular question I get as a major gift coach. First, of course, is what's the exact verbiage? Second most popular question is, how do I know when it's the right time to ask for a gift? Fundraiser, there are 5 things. I go into these 5 things. Once you know these 5 things, fundraiser, it is time to ask. And so it's very simple. The other thing that I go into is there's a lot of mistakes, really mistakes I've made along the past, 25 years. I don't want you to make those same mistakes. So I thought, well, my hope was that this is a judgment-free zone. And when you're reading the book, it's a judgment-free zone. But pretty much every mistake I list in there, I have done. And I don't want you to have to spend 25 years making those same mistakes. So I'd rather tell you those mistakes and just own it and be a little embarrassed than to let you go about making those mistakes on your own. So some of these mistakes are, like when I first started fundraising, sometimes I would apologize for asking. I know, cringe. Or my ask would be too vague, or I talked too much, or I asked for too little. I mean, there were, I think I list 12 or 15 mistakes in there. Just know, I don't want you to make those mistakes. Don't spend the time. Read the mistakes and keep them in your back pocket, and then go be the best fundraiser you can be. The other thing that is, I spend a lot of time talking to major gift officers about is their confidence. There are things that you can do to make sure that you set yourself up for amazing success. And part of that is just getting past imposter syndrome. A lot of my coaching clients and momentum members, I'm like, or say to me, like, who am I to ask this person for $1 million? In which case I say, the perfect person, because you represent the organization, you have the best intentions, and you have a relationship with this donor that can make amazing change in the world. So it's you. Like, this imposter syndrome has to go. So I've included all of my tips and tricks. For example, when I'm driving to go to a solicitation, I have some pump up songs that I listen to. I know it's crazy, but it just gets me in the right headspace. So I share those songs with you inside the book. Okay, then there's, of course, the scripts. And for every one of the scripts, I really define them. I say when to use it, who to use it for. You get 3 to 5 example, like actual verbiage of things I have said in the past or would say, a success story, and then pitfalls to avoid. Because there's just, with each ask type or each script, there's just things to kind of be on the lookout for. And so I wanted to include all those things. Probably the most popular part of this book is the very end. When you ask for a gift, you put yourself in a very vulnerable position. You could get a no. And if you've listened to any of my podcasts before, I am a huge, raving, near lunatic fan of Jerry Panis. Jerry Panis, oh gosh, I once met him at a conference. I mean, he was, this is so embarrassing. He was tabling with his consulting firm. Well, I like stalked him for like 2 hours because I was at a booth like down the way and over in the next aisle. So I was like, oh my gosh, is that Jerry Panis? That is Jerry Panis. I was telling everybody around, oh my gosh, Jerry Panis is over there. I would like walk by casually. I like just working the nerve up to say hello to him because I'm such a huge fan. Anyway, after like 2 or 3 hours of literally stalking him, I went over and I said, hi, I'm your biggest fan. And he gave me this huge hug and I have a picture. Oh, he's the best. But the reason I tell you all this is that Jerry was like the king of objections. And I learned from him so many things about how to manage when somebody says no. And once you know how to manage that, a lot of the fear of asking goes away. So Jerry gives you very specific things in his book, which is called Asking. a 59-minute guide for fundraisers, board members, and I'll put the link in the show description. I can't remember the exact name of the book. Amazing book. But I take his work and go a little bit deeper. So some of the objections that I've heard in the past, I mean, one, money objections, and then I give you exact verbiage of how to handle that. So is the gift too much? Is, if it's somebody needs to pledge it, like all the different ways that money objections could come up. The second is timing objections. You as a solicitor, you know that some people have grandkids in college for the next 2 years, and they are like, I have twin grandkids and they're both in college, and it's a lot of money. So all the timing objections, I give you all my favorite scripts for managing those. There's also fit objections. Like if you ask for a very specific program and the donor comes back and says, I don't really love that program, you're going to know exactly what to say. Then there's trust and organizational objections. And this usually has to do with donors who have been giving to an organization for a long time, and they've seen leadership kind of come in and go out and come in and go out. And it's very important that you manage those very well. So I give you all my tips and tricks for that. There's also personal objections, and then also just crazy curveball objections that I've gotten. But once you figure out, and I say this in the book, but every objection you get is really a clue on how to better solicit. So a no is not a no forever. A no is a not now, and maybe come back to me with once you figure out these things. But instead of fearing objections and fearing the no, get curious. This is when you want to ask the donor questions. And this is straight from Jerry's book. Like he always said, is it the program? Is it the institution? Is it the timing? Is it the way I presented the ask to you? But when you respond with a no or a not now or a curveball objection, when you respond with curiosity instead of defensiveness, you're really turning an objection into a deeper relationship. So you are honing this relationship. You're building trust. You're understanding why there's a no. And then you kind of go back to the drawing board, but it's not a no forever. I will also say this. I'm going to put a link to this. When I got my very first no, I did not handle it well. Sorry, I'm just thinking back and I'm literally cringing. So I don't want you to do what I did. And again, judgment-free zone. So I filmed a YouTube video about it, about how I managed this no. And frankly, I'm grateful for it because it sent me on like a 5-year quest, because I thought do not ever want to get a no. So what can I do to not get that? And so here I am literally 25 years later with specific scripts, with mistakes to avoid, with, how to handle objections, the 5 things you need to make a really super strong ask, the 5 things you need to know before you ask for a gift. It all really goes back to that one solicitation that I had back in, 2002 or 2003. You'll have to check out the YouTube video if you want to look at it. I can smile now. I didn't smile for many years. Okay, fundraiser. I am going to put the link to the book in the show notes. If you need help with your solicitation strategy, this book is for you. If you need to know when is the right time to ask for a gift, if you need confidence building strategies, if you need, coaching tips on how to say the ask in a very natural way, all of these things are in this book. Okay, fundraiser, thanks for listening. Go out and make amazing solicitations and raise as much money as you can for the awesome organization that you work for. Okay, thanks, fundraiser.